Okay, y'all are absolutely sick for telling me that my favorite Disney princess is probably one of the darkest fairy tales that we have. Honestly, the story is probably the darkest one because of the ending, but not only that, there's several adaptations of Cinderella, the oldest one going back to like 50 BCE. We're gonna cover them. But in case for whatever reason you don't know the story of Cinderella, or maybe it's been a while, let's go through and do a little bit of a recap. So Cinderella is about a story of a young woman who's stuck living at home with her stepsisters and stepmother. Her mother died whenever she was a very young girl, and shortly after getting married, her father died as well. I guess there was no blood relatives to be able to take care of her, so she ended up in the custody of her stepmother, who just wanted her dad's money and also was jealous of her beauty. So they went to work spending money while also treating Cinderella like a servant in her own home. We're all gold diggers. I have a soft spot for Anastasia though. But one day the kingdom decides to announce that they're hosting a ball in order to find a match for the prince. We're like, well, Cinderella's kind of cute. She can't be going because she might mess up our chances. They tear apart her dress and go to the celebration without her. Nasty behavior. With the help of some mice and her fairy godmother, she's actually able to go to the ball under one condition: she has to be out of there before midnight. She cleans up so well, her own family doesn't even recognize her. Immediately catches the attention of the prince and dances with him all night. Clock strikes midnight, she takes off running, she has sweaty feet, and she ends up leaving behind one of her glass slippers on the stairs. Well, the prince decides to use the slipper in order to track her down by sending out the Grand Duke, having all the ladies in the land try on the slipper. He ends up finding out that Cinderella is the owner, and they end up living happily ever after. But you are not even prepared for this story. Aschenputtel was dropped by the Grimm Brothers in 1812. And very similarly to the Disney story, the story does start out with Cinderella losing her mother. Father ends up moving on pretty quickly and remarrying someone only for the sake of being scared that Cinderella is without a mother. He's like, she has to have a mother figure. It doesn't matter who it is, apparently. Well, the story that we know about Cinderella, it's the stepmother and the ugly stepsisters. Well, in this story, they're actually all beautiful. Yet they still somehow manage to be jealous of her and treat her terribly. Make her do all the chores for them. They refuse to feed her. She actually has to earn her meals, take away all of her jewelry and dresses, and even the furniture in her room, and just make her sleep on the floor next to the cinders, which is why she's called Cinderella. What even is her real name, by the way? Because I was not able to find that. What the most shocking part about this is the fact that her father is still alive and just watching this all go down. Because Disney was like, we can't really explain this behavior if her father is alive. Her father, being totally aware of the situation, decides to go on a little trip and leave Cinderella with the stepmother and stepsisters that treat her awfully. And he asks them before he goes, hey, what presents should I bring back for y'all? Of course, the stepsisters want jewelry and all the fine things. Cinderella asks for the first twig to hit her father's head on the way back home. That's exactly what he brought back for her. And she ends up planting this where her mother's ashes are in the backyard. This is so horribly sad. She goes out 3 times a day and waters this plant with her tears. This turns into a beautiful tree where birds can live because their only mission is to protect Cinderella. Somewhere in the royal kingdom, the family is planning like a little soiree, and they want to invite everyone from the kingdom so that the prince can choose his bride. This isn't just like a regular soiree. This is a party that lasts 3 days. Cinderella wants to go to the party, but the stepmother ends up throwing a bowl of lentils into the fireplace, tells her to clean it up within 2 hours. Thankfully, she has those badass bird friends come in with their beaks, they're picking it all up, and they finish that task in like T-minus 30. Stepmother is so mad that she finished it that quickly that she just dumps lentils back in the fireplace again. I don't want to say that Cinderella is stupid or anything, but girl, she is not gonna let you go. She's just gonna dump out another bowl of lentils, stop picking them up, but she finishes it. And of course, her stepmother still does not allow her to go. So she's sad, so she goes out to go water her plant again with her tears, up like stating a magic spell. Little tree, shake over me, so that silver and gold may come down and cover me. Never recited those words in front of birds before, so I don't know if something like this would actually happen. But the birds heard her and they're like, okay, bet. They come back with a beautiful embroidered silver and gold dress, as well as some golden slippers. Who exactly did the birds steal this from? We may never know. Cinderella cleans herself up, puts on the dress, and again is no longer recognizable. Takes her happy self to the ball, where she ends up being the center of the attention, specifically the prince's, and she dances with him all night long. Because she wants to protect her identity from him, she just runs away. There's no time for this spell to end in this story. She just pieces out. The prince in this story puts out 3 nights of traps in order to kidnap Cinderella. Well, the first night he actually chases her and ends up making it all the way back to her house, but she ducks herself into the chicken coop and he can't find her. Night 2 is a full repeat of the first night. Night 3 of this festival, she's wearing an even more beautiful dress than the other 2 dresses before, but the prince got a little smart this time. Covers all of the palace stairs in pitch. It's like a sap. It causes one of her golden slippers to slip off as she darts away. And the next day he started on his journey to find the slipper's rightful owner. Here's where the story gets so dark. Well, he arrives at Cinderella's house and she is nowhere to be found. However, the stepsisters are just itching to put on this slipper. The first stepsister puts on the slipper and realizes it doesn't fit. Unfortunately for her, her big toe was just a little bit too large. So instead of just owning up to this, she cuts off her big toe. Comes back with the slipper on her foot and the prince is overjoyed. He was on his way taking her back to the castle whenever he looks down and notices that the shoe is filling with blood. Realizing that this was not in fact the girl from the ball, he's like, hold up, and takes her back to the house. He heads back to the house and has the younger sister then try on the slipper. For her, it wasn't her big toe. It was her heel that was too big. So she decides to practice plastic podiatry and just cuts off her heel. And people can be crazy, but a little bit weird that it happened twice in the same home. So the prince just assumed the best and tried to take off with his new girl. Once he saw the blood on her shoe, he was pissed. So he goes back and demands, asking if there's any other girls within the house. This is when our girl Cinderella comes out, tries on the slipper, boom, perfect fit. Of course, she leaves, they live happily ever after, but the story isn't over yet. Cinderella's stepsisters actually decide to attend the wedding as a good gesture, but honestly, it seems like they just wanted to get on the new queen's good side. But the birds you remember from earlier in the story who are friends with Cinderella, we're not about to have this. So while the sisters were walking to the castle for the wedding, the birds flew down and picked out their eyes, completely blinding them. So Disney decided to leave a lot out, but believe it or not, there's a story that goes even further than the Brothers Grimm version. The story of Cinderella actually originates in China. In addition to this, there's also a story that goes back to like 50 BCE. If you want to know those, I have those all posted over my Instagram reels. And let me know what story you want to hear next.